The South African Republic is also called the country of rainbows because it's colorful and has unique natural beauties. Wild areas abundant in big game, beaches tempting for bathing, rocks rising into the sky, picturesque lakes and huge waterfalls make such a colorful tapestry that local women sell at the local markets. The area of South Africa is over 1,002,000 square kilometers, and it's bordered by Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Two independent monarchies, Lesotho and Swaziland, are inset. The country has 42 million inhabitants who can speak English, Afrikaans, Zulu, and 8 other tribal languages. The capital of South Africa is Pretoria. Its biggest city is Cape Town. Due to the history of the city, there are Victorian and Edwardian area buildings, as well as modern skyscrapers and shopping centres. The biggest and maybe the most beautiful building of Cape Town is the Good Hope Castle. The Dutch East India Company had the imposing pentagonal fortress with corner towers built in 1697 to protect settlers. The famous buildings of the city are the Nico Theatre, which includes the Opera House, the Town Hall with its colonial style, and the Parliament located next to the company gardens. The oldest church of the country is Groot Kerk, meaning Big Church, built in 1678. The city lies on the relatively narrow, rocky coastal passage between the Boer Mountain and the sea. This is one of the biggest capes, and it has the most wonderful locations that I've ever seen, enthused Sir Francis Drake in 1580. His ship was the famous Golden Hingle, in which he was able to circle the Cape, now on display in London in one of the docks of the River Thames. The harbour of Cape Town is one of the busiest commercial centres of Africa. It's a busy place to receive and load goods. It's located halfway between South America and Australia. Its excellent location had been recognized by Portuguese, Dutch, and English seamen centuries before. In 1652, Jan van Riebeck and his small troop landed here to set up transit stations for sailors from the commission of the Dutch East India Company. In the area lived only bushmen until a small town was established. The ships were loaded with fresh vegetables, fruit, meat, fish, and fresh water, and in the docks the damages of the sailing ships were repaired. The growing town became a center of paper and textile manufacturing. The relatively small city center is dominated by Victorian-era buildings. Along the lengthy avenues, several green parks provide fresh air. Outside the historic city center, more and more skyscrapers and modern shopping centers are being built. The most colorful sight of Cape Town is the Green Market Square, where you can find the market, and the most pleasant is Company Gardens. The exotic flowers, artificial ponds, fountains, blooming bushes, and the local people picnicking make the parks of the city colorful. In 1967, Professor Christian Barnard performed the first heart transplant in one of the hospitals in Main Street. The foundation stone of Victoria and Alfred waterfront was placed by Queen Victoria's son, Prince Alfred, in 1860. The reconstruction in 1990 didn't make the commercial harbour less important, but made it possible to let in the increasing tourism. The shopping and entertainment centre, which can be found here, was also named after the Queen. Its 3 attractions are the Dolphinarium Oceanarium, Dock Road Coffee House, and the Naval Museum. We can look at a scale model of the harbour, which helps us find our way, along with several shipping relics. Catamarans leave from the harbour so that we can look at the city, and Table Mountain rising above the city from the sea. These cruises depart all day, but they provide an unforgettable experience at sunset. The famous Table Mountain, rising 1,134 meters above the coast, is also an unforgettable spectacle. In summer, its peak is lost in the clouds, which are called the tablecloth. According to the local tale, they're the smoke rings of the pipe of an old Dutch settler, Mynheer van Honks. Anyone who would like to look at the clouds at close quarters is taken by cable car to 48 meters under the peak. In clear weather, we can see the harbour and its surroundings well. On the south, the peaks of Devil's Peak and Lion's Head, and further away we can even see the Cape Peninsula. The notorious prison island, Robben Island, is opposite. Here, Nelson Mandela was held prisoner. As several ships have sunk in the sea around the island, a lighthouse was built in 1864, which functions even today. Since the 1500s, 23 such ships have been recorded that sank here. Many of them were Portuguese and Dutch commercial ships loaded with gold and precious stones. For example, Oosterland, Haarlem, Milagres, Hogergeest, and the British Thermopylae sank here. The serial accidents in the 17th century made the Dutch authorities forbid such ships to moor in Table Bay in the winter months. The top of Table Mountain is flat, like a table, as the name suggests. Its name was first used by the Portuguese marine captain Antonio de Saldanha in 1503. Later, it was listed on the map with this name. In the area declared a nature reserve, almost 3,000 kinds of plants and some scarce species of animal live. Exotic, colorful birds can be seen beside ordinary crows and ravens, and small lizards lie in the sun on the sunlit rocks. We can meet friendly badgers, called dassies, here. They gladly accept the remains of our snacks. Don't forget to take a photo of the red flowers of Disa uniflora. They're a kind of orchids living in the wild, and they're strongly protected. Those who like botany can't go to a better place than this, because here they can see almost every kind of plants living in the Cape Land in one place. Aloe vera and the huge silver tri, both of which are used in the cosmetics industry, grow here. Anyone who feels strong enough can walk back to the city on the uneven, sometimes steep, panoramic road. The whole city can be seen from the terraces formed along the path. It helps in orientation if we begin our visit of Cape Town here. The nature reserve can be visited from 6 in the morning to 10 at night, but the cable car doesn't work in windy weather. We can find a buffet only at the lower station. Therefore, we should take refresher or mineral water, and of course, we shouldn't forget about binoculars. Many people come here even at night to admire the sunset or the view of the floodlit city from here. The 530-hectare Kirchenbosch Botanical Garden lies under the eastern passage of Table Mountain. This is the best-known botanical garden of the city. Its area was donated to the country by Cecil John Rhodes. Rhodes was born in England and arrived in South Africa when it was the gathering place of the toughest adventurers, miners, and treasure and diamond hunters. The businessman brought diamond and gold mines and huge tracts of land. He gave work and a living to many people. His aim was to make South Africa flourish. He had railways built, founded the British South African Association, and later on became the governor of Cape Land. He died in the Boer War. His memory is still honored even today. The Botanical Garden was declared a national park in 1913. 9,000 species of plants live there, but in the building of Compton Herbarium, 250,000 are recorded. The precise descriptions, drawings, photos, and pressed flowers help the dissemination of scientific knowledge. Most plants living here are native to this area. There are a lot of palms, cactuses, and ferns. South Africa is located on a huge highland, which ascends from the 890-meter-high Kalahari Basin to the 3,300-meter-high Natal Mountains. This difference in altitude determines the variation of the climate and flora. On the high regions, the air is rarer and cooler. Summer lasts from October to April, when it rains almost every day. There are often dry days without any rain in winter, which lasts from May to September. In South Africa, the main range of volcanic mountains is the Drakensberg, which means Dragon Mountains. The Hottentots Holland mountain range starts to the south of Cape Town and reaches the Garden Route. The longest river of the country is the 2,200-kilometer-long Orange, which springs from the Drakensberg Mountains and flows into the Atlantic Ocean near the border of Namibia. This river supplies South Africa with drinking and industrial water. On the motorway leaving the beaches and bays of Cape Town, we go past the mountain range called the 12 Apostles. The governor, Sir Rufain Duncan, named the sandstone peaks. At the bottom of the mountain lies the most beautiful villa quarter of Cape Town. Several foreigners have bought a house here among the palm trees facing the waves of the Atlantic Ocean. The rocky bays favor the various water sports like surfing and kiting. Camps Bay is a popular region of resorts with places for a picnic and restaurants, which offer local, mainly marine specialties. The nearby Sandy Bay is the local nudist haven. We get to Hout Bay, accompanied by colorful flowers. It's the center of tourism. It's a popular berth for yachts coming from various parts of the world. At the fish market, fresh goods are sold. At the restaurant, furnished like a ship, we can even try the fish specialties, which are often served with edible flowers. It's worth ordering shark steak, better for us to eat them than vice versa, and tasty crab dishes. In the small shops and marketplace of Mariner's Waterfront, we can choose from original African souvenirs. There are colorful textiles, batik silk, jewels made of shells and pearls, ornaments, and carvings. Duiker Island, the seal island, is the peculiarity of the island. We started towards it on a small motor ship on the water of the ocean. The water under us seemed surprisingly clean. We could see about 5 to 6 meters deep. After we got out of the protection of the bay into the open ocean, the waves hit more and more strongly on the bow of our ship. The wind picked up. Our ship paused on the top of the waves, and we glided down like on a roller coaster. On the rocks of remote mountainous passages, waves with foam went to pieces. The wind brought cold air. We were approaching the seals. In the middle of summer, in January, the sound of almost 4,000 seals is brought by the wind. Lots of seals lie in the sun on this stone island. 1 or 2 of them swam to our ship to welcome us. They rotated, jumped out of the water, and swam along our ship, lifting their tails. Their kind faces looked as if they always smiled. The surprisingly massive 1,500-meter stone island is a small picket of the Atlantic Ocean. We tried to coast closer, but the seals didn't mind at all. On the rocks, 2 huge males were fighting for the better area. The engine of our ship was turned off. We floated on the water in silence for minutes with the company of seals. The stream of the sea drifted our ship close to the rocks, so the sailors restarted the engine and we swept around the island. In the drift of the wind coming from the open ocean, the waves became bigger and bigger. Our ship hit some huge ones while we were sailing back to the protection of the bay. I could see the huge stones of the jagged passage from beneath. The waves continuously hit the broken mountainside. The waves became calmer. The water was again semi-transparent. We arrived at the harbor. Another group was waiting for the ship to return so that they could go on a cruise to see the seals, writes Fabian, living in South Africa. She has written several articles and books about this wonderful country. "600 meters above Hope Bay, the crooked scenic road takes us to the Cape of Good Hope. It was named after the British seaman John Chapman, who is the discoverer of the bay. The Dutch planned it in 1915, and they had illegal workers build it in 7 years. From the parking area, we can see Seal Island and the rocky bays. The harbors are the places of people of various descent, color, language, and culture everywhere. It's the same here. Let's enjoy the colorful eddies and performances of street musicians. The famous Cape of Good Hope is the south end of Africa. The small peninsula is bordered by the Indian Ocean with its warm, friendly water on the east, and the Atlantic Ocean with its cooler, unfriendly water on the west. Tourists flock here from afar to see the point where the two mighty oceans meet. can send word to our friends from the end of the world. The stamps bought here are stamped with the Cape of Good Hope stamp. The nature reserve established here is about 8,000 hectares. The huge savanna bursts into blossom during the autumn months, giving an unforgettable spectacle to those who visit the area at that time. The area of Clanvilliam, which is located on the north from here, is also famous for its flowers. On the peninsula, 1,200 kinds of plants and several kinds of animals live. 160 of them are birds. We can see antelopes, ostriches, and baboons. They're special because they're the only monkeys who eat seafood, such as fish, shell, and algae. Captain Bartholomew Diaz was the first to get around the Cape in 1488. 12 years later, not far from here, his ship sank and has lain in the deep ocean ever since. The world remembers Vasco da Gama better. He got to India in 1498 by getting around the Cape, opening a new phase of shipping. As the superstitious sailors' legends say, the Flying Dutchman is also getting around somewhere here invisibly, with a ghost crew on its deck. The weather is always windy, often stormy around the Cape, so the shipping route is thought to be dangerous even today, despite the fact that satellite navigation and developed communication devices are at sailors' disposal. As the old nautical maps showed 100 or 200 kilometers deviation and caused the end of many ships, in the middle of the 1800s a lighthouse was built on the peak of the peninsula. It wasn't pulled down, but 100 years later a modern 87-meter-high tower was built in front of it, the light of which can be seen 40 kilometers away. Walking paths lead to the towers, but they can be approached also by funicular railway. Simonstown is a Navy base today, so the resort has been established further away, on Boulder Beach. There are hotels, a professional golf course, and beaches waiting for holidaymakers. On the east side of the peninsula, we can find Simon's Bay, the small port. It was discovered by a Dutch captain in 1671. It's suitable for lying at anchor even in winter. The town wasn't named after him, but after Governor Simon van der Stel, who agreed with building the port. At the resort with warm climate, nobody would expect to see penguins, although these birds live not only in Antarctica, as many of us would think. On the island of South Georgia, the colony consists of 5 million couples, and quite a lot of them live in Australia and New Zealand, as well as Galapagos Islands. On Boulder Beach, there aren't many of them, but they're strongly protected. Thus, there's no need to be afraid of their extinction. The way they walk righting themselves in their black tailcoats like the chief steward with the bill makes everybody smile. Their ancestors lost the ability to fly. Their wings turned into fins with which they can swim at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. They live in colonies, they spend most of their lives fishing in the sea, and they go to the coast at the time of breeding season. They can stay 8 to 10 minutes underwater, and they can dive into 500 meters deep. Their feathers protect them not only from the cold water, but also from the icy wind. They're not very shy. Although they don't let us catch them, we can take a photo of them at close quarters. In the last few decades, in the wine shops of Europe, such wines turned up that weren't known earlier. Such wine is the wine from California, Chile, and South Africa. Around Cape Peninsula, wine was planted around the 17th century, but to make wine of good quality became necessary when French Huguenots settled here. They brought technology and knowledge, which resulted in a drink said to have been Napoleon's favorite. In the surroundings, we can see long lines of vines everywhere. All private farms make wine. Wine Route was built, which reaches all the significant growers and sites of the neighborhood. In the former country house of Governor van der Stel, in Groot Constantia, which has been restored, the Museum of Wine has been set up, which gives us interesting historical data. In the time of French King Philippe Louis, the wine of Stellenbosch were favored at the court. In the neighborhood, about 50 wine cellars await those interested, and of course, you can taste and buy wine. The process of processing and bottling are also shown. The center of the wine route is the old town of Stellenbosch, with its whitewashed houses with straw roofs and lines of trees. This is the second oldest town of the country, the atmosphere of which hasn't changed, fortunately, in the last 2 centuries. It's worth looking at Village Museum and Oud Meest Brandy Museum, where brandy is made by distilling the local wine. One part of the wine of Stellenbosch is not made by the traditional oxidative, but the reductive process now popular. These drinks are made in stainless metal tanks, then soon bottled. The wine made in this way is light, fresh, and fruity, while the ones mellowed in oak barrels are stout and aromatic. At some of the factories, even champagne is made. Pretoria was named after Andreas Pretorius, a Boer strategist who beat the Zulu. The first war between the English and Boer to get independence ended with the defeat of the English. But 18 years later, they had a decisive victory and they ruled all over the South African Republic. It's interesting that the later Prime Minister, the young Churchill, took part as a correspondent in the Second Boer War. The sites of Pretoria remind us of the 2 wars even today. Paul Kruger was the respected president of the country between the 2 wars. In Church Street, we can find the simple house where he lived for 7 years. The entrance is guarded by 2 marble lions. The furniture looks as if the president had just stood up from his desk. In one of the rooms, the copy of the room in which he died during his exile in Switzerland has been furnished. Behind the house, the locomotive has been displayed that he traveled around the country in during his 7 active years. In the street named after Kruger, we can find the red brick church and the town hall with the 2 Pretoria statues in its yard. The bronze statue of President Kruger has been placed in the main square, called Church Square. The statue, made in Italy, stood in a storehouse in secret for a long time. It was stood up only after the Second Boer War. The square has always been the heart of the town. In the middle of the square, there's a small church, around which markets and auctions were held for a long time. In the square, we can find the Palace of Justice and the building of the old Parliament with the clock tower. The peace agreement closing the English-Boer War was signed in the Victorian building of Melrose House in May 1902. Voortrekker Monument is 6 kilometers from the town centre. The imposing work was made in memory of the Battle of Blood River, where the Boer beat the Zulu at last. Farther away, about 40 kilometers from Pretoria, we can see Premier Diamond Mine, which is famous because the biggest diamond of the world was found here. It took cutters from Amsterdam 2 years to make the diamonds called the Star of Africa and the smaller Star of Africa from the 3,106 carat precious stone, which belongs to the British Royal Crown. The crown can be admired in the treasury of the Tower of London. In the main square, full of life, hawkers offer fast food, for example, boiled or roasted corn. The Pilanesberg National Park is the 3rd largest game reservation of the country, which was opened in 1979. Altogether 8,000 specimens of several species of animals live here, among them the 5 big games: lions, leopards, elephants, buffaloes, and rhinoceroses. Besides them, we can see giraffes, zebras, antelopes, and monkeys, of course. Safari is done in open buses around the park, so there's a good opportunity to take photographs. Of course, it's not allowed to get off the buses. It serves the safety of visitors as well as the visited animals. The motionlessly watching rhino charged us at the noise of Rocco's running away. I sighted its head quickly, but after the noise of my shot, my rhinoceros didn't collapse, but turned around suddenly and ran away. But I had time to shoot another sighting its shoulder. It happened in a moment, and the rhino disappeared in a moment. Paolo was in a bad mood because he liked only to shoot the game. I beckoned Paolo to move. Getting out of the shrubbery, we follow the path of the shot game. Only a rhino shot in the shoulder has such a big blood print, as if the nice fresh blood were watered by a can. My African tanning light shoes became bloody walking in the pools of blood. Our rhino lay about 80 or 100 steps from the site of shooting. He was lying, collapsed, and turning towards us. The Kirangosian and Rocco told me to shoot him because they thought it was still alive. Its horn was prominent and strong, so I was afraid that my prey was a white rhino. I leaned my gun against the rhino's back, and I tried to lift its head lying in the blood to see its lips. The upper lips of black rhinoceroses are pointed like a trunk, but white rhinoceroses have a straight lip. I was trying to lift the heavy head using every effort, and Paolo was also coming to help me. Suddenly, the head became light when my rhino lifted his head and looked at me. You can imagine the look on my face as I tried to back away from the dangerous animal seeming to come to life again by jumping back. I must have set the jumping record for the year of 1929. Paolo and my people all shouted and scattered, "Shoot him!" It was easy to say, but hard to do because my gun was leaned against the back of the rhinoceros. The rhino dropped his head back into the pool of blood. The panic was totally unnecessary. The sudden lift of the head was the last reflex of life. Now we looked at the shots. The first shot, intended into his forehead, had hit his horn, which stopped the bullet. At the same time, it stopped the rhino from running towards us. The second shot went into his shoulder, going through his lung. The horn was prominently strong. It was almost 20 inches long and weighed almost 12 pounds dried up. Kalmar Kittenberger wrote about one of his hunts. Ambitious tourists, if not with a gun, but torches in their hands, can watch the game at night with local leaders. We can pay not only for a safari at dawn, in the afternoon, or at night, but also a panorama flight in a balloon with champagne, where we can watch the animals from a safe distance. It's an unforgettable trip above the Pilanesberg mountains. Beside the national park, we can find 7 accommodations of various equipment, size, and price. There are African bungalows with reed roof and public bathrooms with cold water and luxurious apartments with a swimming pool and self-service dining. From the terrace of some hotels, we can watch wild animals in the day and hear the cries of wildlife lying in our beds at night. Those who first come to the Black Continent are afraid of what hygienic conditions, comfort, and foods they'll meet. Well, the hotels give the cleanliness and comfort in accordance with their classification, and their catering meets what we're accustomed to internationally. It's worth choosing an accommodation of higher comfort, all of which has a swimming pool, giving freshening up after a tiring trip. Hotels provide several kinds of programs besides safaris. There's tennis, squash, mini golf and quad, jet ski and water ski. Pilanesberg Park is located right next to the famous Sun City. The site we mustn't miss in South Africa is the resort and experience complex consisting of Sun City and Lost City. It's a little bit like a game reservation, a little bit park with slides, a little bit hotel, and a little bit Disneyland, which guarantees a wonderful vacation and causes homesickness. Anyone who has seen it only in pictures or film would like to see it in its reality, and anyone who has been there would like to return. Sol Kertzner, the young bookkeeper working in the catering industry, opened his first hotel in 1964. His business empire became bigger and bigger. By selling and buying shares, he was able to make his dream come true by 1980, which has become a dream of ours as well. The exotic world of Sun City has tropical forests, and among the trees, orchids bloom. The scent is intoxicating. The colors are damped by the light coming through the leaves. Among the branches, monkeys and parrots with colorful feathers squeal. In the lakes, flamingos can be seen and water lilies bloom. A flight of exotic birds enjoy the jungle. On the grass of the parks, delicate peacocks sweep. Realistic statues of the animals of Africa ornament the streets, bridges, corridors, and terraces. Friendly zebras, elephants, funny monkeys, and morose lions watch us everywhere. the sheltered sea bay with its white sand, you can get a real bath in the waves. It's a world of tales where everything that can be found in unspoiled nature, but without its dangers. In this jungle, there are no pythons or tigers leveling at us. In the rivers, there are no crocodiles, and even mosquitoes are exterminated regularly. The charm of Sun City resides in the fact that we get concentrated African experiences, while not only our safety and comfort are taken care of, but also our entertainment. Here, it's impossible to be bored. In the building of the 5-star Hotel Cascades, there's a casino and a theater hall for thousands of people, which also cater for our entertaining. In one of the clearings, an amphitheater-like outdoor stage has been set up for musical performances. Although the size of the waterfalls can't compare with the size of the Victoria waterfall, their view is fascinating and their water spray is freshening. On the lakes there are wooden bridges, above the waterfalls there are suspension bridges made of ropes, and below the water bubbles in small pools flanked with rocks. Crooked slides lead into pools, and the water of rock corridors reminds of mountain brooks with fast flow. According to the legend of the lost city, several thousand years ago an unknown tribe passed towards the south from north when they found a beautiful valley in the middle of the volcanic mountain. The tribe had developed civilization. They built up a city similar to which there wasn't any in the whole world. They built bridges, tunnels, bath places, arenas, and a theater. They were surrounded with gold and silver things treated wonderfully. One day the earth quaked, the volcano erupted, and the hot lava buried the city. Saul Kurtzner employed architects, craftsmen, painters, and gardeners to rebuild the legend. They started to rebuild Lost City in autumn of 1990, and they built the most luxurious hotel and leisure center on the 27-hectare African savanna. The 5,000 workers moved 2,750,000 cubic meters of earth and used 850,000 cubic meters of concrete. Crocodiles are the only species of huge reptiles remaining from the time of the dinosaurs. Their skin is covered by hard, horn panels which give them a dragon-like appearance. People watch these pitiless predators with respect and fear, so crocodile farms in Africa have always been visited by a lot of people. Crocodiles have a special place among contemporary reptiles because some of their inner features remind us of mammals rather than reptiles. Their hearts consist of 4 parts like the hearts of birds and mammals, and their sinus is separated from their mouth. This makes it possible to catch and eat their prey underwater, while their nostrils are above the surface of the water to breathe. Their eyes are protected under the water by a partly leaky third eyelid. Their stomach is separated from their breast by a muscle, which increases the efficiency of their lungs, like the midriff in the mammals. Crocodiles grow during their whole lives, and as they can live to be 100, it's no wonder that they can reach 7 meters in length and may weigh 1,000 kilograms. About 3,000 people are killed by crocodiles in Africa. These reptiles also live in America and Australia, but the biggest of them is the Nile crocodile, living only in Africa, and it was respected as a holy animal in the ancient Egypt and was buried embalmed. Everyone who has seen the animated cartoon Lion King knows the small, agile suricata. Yes, he's Timon, who became the young Simba's faithful helper with Pumbaa the Boer. The small animal, similar to the prairie dog, lives in big colonies in the savannah. They live in caves under the ground and watch their enemies at the entrance of their caves, standing on two legs. The herbivorous suricata is the favorite prey of prairie dogs, buzzards, and eagles. Lesedi Cultural Village can be found between Sun City and Johannesburg. The village, where some families of the 4 big tribes of Africa live, is surrounded with a fence called boma, made of thorny sticks. This is a village museum, and also more than that. The families not only show what the life of an African tribe is like, but they also live their life here indeed. They're not employees who go home to their houses with all the conveniences in the evening. Zulus, Pedis, Xoxas, and Sotos also show us their ancient traditions, customs, and culture. The women bear batches of dry sticks and jugs with water on their heads, carry their small children bound on their backs, and make jewels of beads as a kind of relaxation. Some of the men hunt and fish. They keep their valuable animals in corrals. We can watch the difference between customs of clothes and building of the various tribes. We can see them next to each other as it never happened in reality. Zulus, Xoxas, Ndebelis, and Swazis consider themselves to be the descendants of the ancient Nguni tribe. Zulu means the clan of heaven. Dragon Mountain rises at the border of Zululand and Lesotho. Tolkien became inspired to write The Lord of the Rings when he had a glance at this mountain. Although the history of the tribe is about 1,000 years old, they became a real nation only in the 18th century. During wars between the tribes, the Zulus expanded their power over the weaker tribes. In this way, they became more and more powerful and bigger. One of their strongest leaders was Shaka, who rose to power in 1816 and soon became the biggest strategist of his era. All tribes of KwaZulu-Natal were assimilated into his clan. A film titled Shaka Zulu has been made about his life. The tribe fought against the English in the 19th century, and after many victories, they were finally beaten at the Battle of Ulund. With their population of almost 9 million, they make the most populous ethnical group of South Africa. The second biggest tribe is of the Xoxas. They're divided into several groups, which dress differently, although they speak the same language. There are groups of fighters and farmers among them. Polygamy is fashionable in these tribes. The men pay with cows for their wives. A young wife costs 10 to 12 cows. They keep donkeys and sheep as well. The Sotho tribe was unified by King Moshoeshoe at the beginning of the 1800s. Anyone who is interested in ethnography or exoticism can spend a few days here with the tribe they choose and get to know their lives living with them. The history of the country is full of events of the black Aborigines and the white settlers. First, Portuguese became interested in the south end of Africa, but colonization was started by the Dutch. The settlers discovered the inner areas and conquered bigger and bigger parts of it. There had been a Dutch reign for 150 years when the English cast an eye over this important area. 4 ships of the English military fleet forced the small Dutch fortress of Simonstown to give in. The population of Cape Land consisted of 26,000 whites, over 30,000 slaves brought from faraway areas, and 20,000 Aborigines at the beginning of the 19th century. On the east part of the country, a new group, the Voortrekkers, developed, who consisted of the Boers escaping from the English. They were going towards the inner parts of the continent. Their migration, full of dangers, determined the national culture of Afrikaans. During this time, tribes also warred against each other. The fights were the most significant during the reign of the Zulu king Shaka. King Shaka's successor, Dingane, threatened the advancing Boer army the most. Dingane killed Piet Retief, the leader of the Voortrekkers, with his group of 100 people at their headquarters near Durban. Then the attacks against Boer settlements became bloodier. At the end of 1838, in the battle near Blood River, the Boers absolutely beat the Zulus, and that year they set up their republic called Natalia, which was joined by the English colonies 4 years later. Because of the serial Zulu attacks, the English decided to square with the Zulu kingdom, assembling their forces. Thousands of English soldiers had died in the battles by the time they occupied the area of KwaZulu-Natal. Meanwhile, on the northern parts, the Afrikaans set up 2 independent republics, Orange Free State and Transvaal Republic, which formed the South African Republic in 1852. The discovery of gold and diamonds increased the importance of the region. Diamonds were found in Kimberley, then gold was found in Johannesburg. Lots of plunderers and soldiers of fortune came here. Moreover, the English became interested in this region. Paul Kruger, the president of the South African Republic, wasn't happy about the immigration of strangers, but because he needed the taxes they paid, he put up with their presence. In 1899, the Boer War broke out. After fighting for 2.5 years, the Boer surrendered, and in 1902 they signed the peace contract in Vereeniging, as a consequence of which Transvaal became one of the English colonies. As a consequence of the battle between the 2 white peoples, 14,000 black people became innocent victims of the events. In 1910, Cape Land, Transvaal, Orange Free State, and the Natal colonies united under the name South African Union. In Lesedi folklore, programs are given occasionally, showing ancient tribal dances and music to strangers. The river Zambezi is the joint border between Zimbabwe and Zambia. The most significant site of both countries is Victoria Waterfall, which is one of the 7 wonders in the world. Approaching the waterfall, we can glimpse a huge cloud very similar to the smoke of bushfire from about 20 kilometers. On the way to the waterfall, we can see fog, and we can glimpse the waterfall only 50 meters from it. The river Zambezi hurtles from a 120-meter height from a steep rock wall. It arrives at a huge rift, flows through a narrow hole, and then it flows down in a zigzag. Local people call the water Muzioatunya, meaning thundering smoke, and Shangwi, meaning unquiet kettle. Its name, Victoria, comes from Livingstone. We can have a look at the river Zambezi flowing peacefully in front of the waterfall, then the big, turbulent waterfalls, and below them, whitewater rafters, writes the scientist of nature, David Wall from New Zealand, who we can thank for the most inspired photographs of Africa. Every big waterfall is accompanied by a rainbow, which is created by the light breaking on the water drops. This natural wonder can be watched as a whole only on a helicopter or plane due to the features of the area. We can make the best video recordings of our life on the waterfall from the helicopter. We only need to take enough raw materials and fill batteries. Our helicopter may fly under one of the rainbows, which gives luck according to an old legend. Anyhow, anyone who has seen this wonderful beauty can be said to be lucky. David Livingstone was born next to Glasgow, in Blantyre in Scotland. He travelled to South Africa in 1840 to do missionary work there. He walked on the countryside with amazing instinct and endurance, where no other white man had been before. He found the source of the river Zambezi and discovered the Victoria Falls. While he was searching for the spring of the River Nile, he disappeared and there was no news from him for 3 years, when the owner of the New York Herald commissioned the young journalist Stanley to detect Livingstone's destiny. In the course of exhausting and dangerous journey, during which 2 of his attendants died, Stanley found the ill and weak explorer. The medicine and food gave Livingstone back his strength, and the following month they explored the region of Lake Tanganyika together. Stanley sent supplies to Livingstone, then he returned to England. The explorer set off for his last journeys in 1872. 1 year later, he got dysentery and died. His body was embalmed and taken to Zanzibar, from here to England by ship, where he was buried in Westminster Abbey. In Zambia, a town was named after him, and a statue was made in his honor. His discoveries are remembered in 2 museums, at Blantyre in Scotland and at Livingstone in Zambia. Many people are interested in the Museum of the Explorer and Missionary, but the waterfall attracts even more people. In the surrounding hotels, with all conveniences and a swimming pool, have been built for the tourists. They try to make the guests stay longer in this way. Along the border of Zimbabwe and Zambia runs the river Zambezi. The 2 countries used to be called North and South Rhodesia. Both became independent of English reign in the 20th century. Lake Kariba, which was made by blocking the river Zambezi, used to be the largest lake in the world with its 280-kilometer length. Zimbabwe is famous for those old ruins whose origin is not clear and which may have been part of the palace of the Queen of Shaba. David Wall writes that South Africa is a land of contrasts. The majority of Namibia and Botswana is covered by interminable scenic wastes, while the coast of Zambezi is abundant in water, and Okawago Bog, with rich vegetation, flaunts in a green color. The rainy highlands vary with dry, bare basins, and near the hot areas, glacial peaks rise. The huge orange dunes of the desert Namib and the snow covering the peaks of the Drakensberg make the country so colorful and varied, as if we weren't on the same continent.